Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa bihi nasta'een wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een wa ba'd. Okay, so we've been reading through Ayyuhal Walad by Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah. We took the first couple of counsels, and we said that this book is a book of 24 counsels that he's giving to one of his students who was struggling with conceptualizing the fact that he goes through his entire life studying the deen, reading Quran, memorizing ahadith, but not feeling like he is rising in his levels towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It feels like he's static and he's staying in the same place. And so he writes to Imam Al-Ghazali and he says, "Yeah, Imam, like I need some help, I need some counsel, I need some advice. So please help me get over this bump in my life that I feel like I've been spending all these years in devotion to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I don't feel like I'm rising in my ranks. I don't feel like my actions are changing in any way, shape or form." And so Imam Al-Ghazali writes him 24 counsels that he could implement in his life. The first counsel was the Bismillah. Hey, there's the book. Okay, let's go down to where we were last time. Now, the first counsel that we took was the counsel of revelation, and how that if he hasn't already received admonition from the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what on earth is the speech of Imam Al-Ghazali going to do, and what difference is that going to make for him? Then we took the second counsel, which was the counsel of time, and then the third counsel, which was the counsel of knowledge, and the fourth counsel, which was the counsel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, which is that nobody will enter into Jannah except through the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's not by someone's mere iman that they will enter into it. And the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shown through the fact that a person is devoted and showing servitude. And what we ended on last week was that a person could say that I can enter Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that on the day of judgment, anybody with a small atom's weight worth of iman in their hearts will be taken out of Jahannam and put into Jannah. So I can technically get into Jannah by just saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and having that in my heart. Then we also said, or Imam Al-Ghazali said, alayhi rahmatullah, that there is no guarantees for this. Whilst this is true, there is no guarantees that you will skip all of the punishments that may take place as a result of you not doing anything that you were supposed to do in the first place in this world. And that's not something that you should bank on. Yani the odds of you of doing that, of getting in just by saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, are very, very low. So whoever wants to bet on that is most likely going to lose. Okay, so let's continue. Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah says, Ayyuhal Walad, oh my dear son, which is the next counsel. And the next counsel is evaluation. Yeah? Evaluating yourself, evaluating where you are. And this is what a believer should have in their own selves all the time. They should always take stock of what they're doing, how they're doing it, where they are, where they were, where they wanted to be, and how close they are to getting to it. A lot of us, mashallah, we kind of go through autopilot in our lives, especially with regards to our deen. Because deen is very, very simple. It's just, a certain number of actions and then khalas. But little do we know that our deen permeates into every aspect of our lives. It's in our work life. It's in our interactions with others professionally. It's also in our family life. It's also in the upbringing of our children, and so on and so forth, right? And even if it doesn't sort of like manifest itself in any other shape or form in your life, but when you have a family, and your children imitate you in what you do. Anybody that has children here knows that, dude, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to educate them in anything. You don't have to sit down and teach them anything. They will just copy everything that you do, right? So if your level of deen is zero and it's been the same since forever, then that's the glass ceiling, right? That's where they're going to reach, and you're going to expect them to be like, why aren't you learning Quran? It's like, brother, are you learning the Quran? You know what I mean? It's like my son doesn't recite the Quran, he doesn't learn it. I give him sabak every day and I tell him to read and stuff, but he doesn't do it. It's like, well, you do it? No, I don't, but he should. I did it when I was younger, that's it, khalas, I'm done. Tamam? So, evaluate yourself. That's the summary of this one, inshallah. So he says, Ya ayyuhal walad, ma lam ta'amal, lam tajid al-ajr. He says, oh my dear son, my beloved son, whatever you don't act according to, or whatever you don't do, you will not find the reward for it. Yeah? If you have the intention of doing something, wallah man, I really want to do a khatam of the Quran and get like a great reward for doing a khatam. Okay, do it then. If you don't do it, you're not going to get any reward for it. حكي أن رجلا من بني إسرائيل. So there was a man from Bani Israel. عبد الله تعالى 70 سنة. He worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 70 years. And I've said many times that the word 77, any derivative of the number 7, usually is a sign for a lot. It doesn't necessarily need to be 70 years per se. فأراد الله تعالى أن يجلوه على الملائكة. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test him with the angels. فأرسل الله تعالى إليه ملكا يخبره. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent to him an angel in order to tell him what? أنه مع تلك العبادة لا يليق به الجنة. The angel was given the responsibility of telling him that despite you doing all of that action for 70 years, you don't deserve to enter into Jannah. To see his response. So what was the response? فلما بلغه قال العابد نحن خلقنا للعبادة فينبغي لنا أن نعبده. He said, this servant, we were created for worship, so we have to worship him nonetheless. Regardless of whether Allah is destined for me Jannah or not, He's created me to worship Him, so I'm going to worship Him. And as a result of that response, and him responding to the test like that, فَلَمَّا رَجَعَ الْمَلَكِ قَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى مَاذَا قَالَ عَبْدِي قَالَ إِلَهِي أَنْتَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا قَالَ الْعَبْدِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angels returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked his angels, what did my servant say? And the angels said, Allah knows better what the servant said. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِذَنْ هُوَ لَمْ يُعْرِضْ عَنْ عِبَادَتِنَا. So he didn't turn away from our ibadah. فَنَحْنُ مَعَ الْكَرَمِ لَا نُعْرِضُ عَنْهُ. And we, out of our generosity to him, will not turn away from him. إِشْهَدُوا يَا مَلَائِكَتِي أَنِّي قَدْ غَفَرْتُ لَهُ. Bear witness, O my angels, that I have forgiven him. All as a result of what? As a result of him recognizing that it is his duty regardless of the reward that he's going to get or not going to get. Alright? So that's the maqam of the abid. That's the level of his worship. He wasn't worshipping in order to get something out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he gets it, alhamdulillah, he worships. And if he doesn't get it, he leaves off worship because he's not going to get that which he wants from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. He worships him because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him to do. Which means, the moral of that story is, regardless of whether good things happen in our lives or they don't, regardless of whether we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for certain things and they happen in our lives or they don't, it doesn't have a bearing on whether we show servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. We increase in our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. The sign of a hypocrite is the one who, when he is given, he is happy, right? And when he is not given, sakhita or sakhitu, right? What's the ayah? إِذَا أُعْطُوا رَضُوا وَإِن لَمْ يُعْطَوْا إِذَا هُمْ يَسْخَطُونَ. Right? The munafiqun are those that if they are given, they are happy. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about in that particular ayah is the spoils of war. We go to battle, we win the battle, spoils of war comes. If they get the spoils of war, they are happy that they took part in the battle. And if they don't get the spoils of war, they are upset and they're like, why did we take part in the battle in the first place? Right? So that's the sign of the munafiq, and the sign of the believer is that regardless of whether I get a reward out of this or not, whether I get something out of it that I'm looking for or not, this is what I'm created for and this is my purpose nonetheless. Tamam? And that's true ikhlas. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, then he goes on to say in another hadith, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا وزنوا أعمالكم قبل أن توزنوا. Famous hadith that bring yourselves to account before yourselves are brought to account, and weigh up your deeds before they are weighed for you. And this is obviously in preparation for Yawm al-Qiyamah, which means that the smart one from amongst us always plans ahead, right? Everybody knows that a person who knows that the UK economy is going to tank and doesn't plan for it, right? Or the one who plans for it, should we say? Let's start with the good guy, yeah? The one who plans for it, right? And he's prepared and he's like, okay, I'm going to sort of diversify my investment portfolio. So if these things crash, inshallah, I've got like a way out, right? This guy is smart. He knows what he's doing, right? And everybody knows that the person who comes out of like some sort of recession like that, some sort of market crash like that, and he comes out on top, okay, he did his homework, he knows what he's doing, right? And then the miskeen, al-abd al-faqir is just going on in life. Just getting whatever's chucked at him, just receives it, right? That person isn't so smart, right? So the same person is with regards to the akhirah. The one who is planning for the akhirah, that is the future, right? And luckily for us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given us what's going to happen, right? We already know like where the market is going with regards to the akhirah. We already know what to invest in, what not to invest in, what to do and what not to do, right? Allah's given us the blueprint. All we have to do is just do it. The one who does that and he dies and he meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he gets what he's given, right? And he gets the success that was destined for him. Everybody will look at that guy and be like, yo, that guy was smart. I was the idiot. I was the one who was given all of this and I still didn't do anything, right? Then he says, وقال علي رضي الله تعالى عنه. He brings a statement from Ali, كرم الله وجهه. من ظن أنه بدون الجهد يصل فهو متمن. ومن ظن أنه يبذل الجهد يصل فهو متعنن. Allah, what does this mean? He says that whoever thinks that without working hard he is going to reach his goal, فهو متمن, then he is one who has false hopes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? There's this thing called tamanni in Islam, right? In the Quran as well, right? What's the ayah? قالوا ألم نكن معكم قالوا بلى ولكنكم تربصتم أنفسكم وارتبتم وغرتكم الأماني الله حتى جاء أمر الله وغركم بالله الغرور. Amani, like these false hopes, this tamanni, is when you, like it's almost like you're demanding from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala khair and barakah. It's almost like you're demanding from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jannah and you haven't done anything to deserve it. It's almost like you raise your hands, you know, like you've just done kaba'ir, you've barely prayed, like you've missed bare of your fara'id, and then you're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, give me, why are you giving me? It's like, dude, you need to get smacked. What are you doing? What is this like, this priority that's all gone all over the place, right? So here, that's called tamanni. And tamanni is actually a sin on top of a sin. Tamanni is you've done something wrong, but you expect something right to come out of that wrong. That's called tamanni, right? So that's a sin on top of a sin. ومن ظن أنه يبذل الجهد يصل ببذل الجهد يصل فهو متعنن. And whoever thinks that by working hard you will certainly reach is like the muta'annin. Ta'anni is like how do you translate that? Ta'anni is like someone who does something and is expects to get some sort of outcome out of it. When he doesn't get that outcome, he's disappointed. Right? Like he's certain of getting that outcome and he's disappointed. Huh? No, not despair. But it's like a child. Like, okay, we're gonna go to Disneyland or whatever, or Legoland. We don't have, do we have Disneyland here? We don't, do we? Yeah, but anyway. Legoland, let's say Legoland, yeah? We're gonna go to Legoland and then something comes up and we're not able to go to Legoland, and the reaction of that child, what's it going to be? Yeah, so well, you promised though, you promised that you're going to take me, or we're not going in, and he's eating your head. Entitlement, yeah, that's the one. That's a good word. So entitlement, right? So we have this. So if we think that by doing this we deserve from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's that entitlement of that child who doesn't get to go to Legoland in spite the promise of going. We've got first-hand experience there. Then he goes on to mention, وقال الحسن رحمه الله طلب الجنة بلا عمل ذنب من الذنوب. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Jannah without acting in order to get it is a sin from the sins. It's another sin, right? Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. وقال عالم, and one of the ulama said, الحقيقة ترك ملاحظة العمل لا ترك العمل. From the realities of your ibadah is to leave off focusing on the action itself, focusing on the action itself and the rewards of it and what you're going to get out of it and the fact that it's an obligation and so on and so forth, but not leaving off the action itself. Oh, this is a hard maqam to explain, man. We're like at the beginning levels, man, and he's like explaining like the higher levels, right? But essentially what we're supposed to do is when we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because Allah's promised us Jannah. Although that's one of the reasons why we can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because if we don't do it, we're destined for Jahannam. So in order to save ourselves from Jahannam, we worship Allah, right? It's not like a transactional thing that we're doing. We're not subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of what He's going to give us or what He's going to punish us with, right? That's the sign of a sort of a lowly servant who is sort of stimulated and motivated by just base desires. I want, therefore I do. I don't want to receive, therefore I don't do, kind of thing, right? So that's like the base level. But the next level up is like you do it because you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And you do it just because it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not because of anything else, because of your sheer love for Allah, your sheer love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and your connection to them, and you just want to get close to them, and you just want to do that just because they told you to do it, even if there is some suffering in there for you, right? When you fall in love with someone, everyone knows who's married. When you fall in love with someone, you're gonna take on the lip that they give you. Dude, anybody else in those circumstances gonna get a backhand. Don't you dare talk to me like that. How dare you? Who do you think you are? But mashallah, this beautiful, beautiful woman who we've fallen in love with, right, is talking to us like this. Yallah khalas, you sit there, you take it. I'm so sorry, darling. Let me go give you a gift as well. I'm gonna buy you something as a result of your bad language to me as well. Ghareeb. Why are you doing this? You're not doing this because like you want something out of her. You're doing this because you love her and you hate to see her disappointed. Do you know what I mean? That's a different level of why you're acting. Now, if you were to do just because it's Allah, regardless of love, regardless of action, regardless of reward, regardless of punishment, regardless of anything else, just because it's Allah, different level, man, different class. So that is what he means by ترك ملاحظة العمل لا ترك العمل. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الكيس الله, he brought the hadith, من دان نفسه وعمل لما بعد الموت والأحمق من أتبع نفسه هواها وتمنى على الله. Then he ends this chapter of self-evaluation with the smart person is من دان نفسه, is the one who the kayyis, the one who's intelligent, right, the smart guy. من دان نفسه is the one who holds himself to account, right? دان يدين دينا, the word deen is to take account, to take stock of something, right? So our very religion that we call the deen of Islam is to hold ourselves to account, right? And what that means is like you make sure that you're acting correctly, you're bearing witness over others as well, right? Because we're going to come and we're going to bear witness over other people, other nations that preceded us as well, and so on and so forth, right? So all of that requires a level of self-determination and self-reflection. وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ, and he acts for what is going to come after death. And the idiot is the one who أَتْبَعَ نَفْسَهُ هَوَاهَا, just allowed himself to follow all of its desires. Whatever it wished, that's what it followed. Wallah, it's really popular to follow deen and everybody's being religious and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to be religious too. Well, it's really, really popular to be like an Instagram, TikTok influencer, right? Oh yeah, Allah, that's what I'm going to do. Oh, it's really popular to do something else. Oh, that's what I'm going to do. Oh, it's really popular to do this. Oh, that's what I'm going to do. Just following whatever the desire takes him, wherever the desire takes him, right? That person is considered a fool by Allah and His Messenger. And then finally, وَتَمَنَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ, which is the shahid here, the point of the hadith. وَتَمَنَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ, which he hopes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without actually doing. Ayyuhal Walad. The next counsel is the counsel of, or the sixth counsel, is the counsel of intention. Everybody knows how important intentions are. Imam Al-Ghazali, he says, كم من ليال أحييتها بتكرار العلم ومطالعة الكتب وحرمت على نفسك النوم لا أعلم ما كان الباعث فيه. He says to his student, right? And obviously his student is a certain level and we're not necessarily that level, right? Guys, if you want to like not break your backs, there's like the backrests over there in the corner. I see like one of you is like struggling there. It's like they've got a core strength now. Yeah, Habibi over there, he's like, mashallah. He's like, I want to lie down, but I can't. Please, like, if you want, man, like, I got them just for that. Ay, barakallah fik. Yeah, please share them out with everybody. Yeah. We brought them into the masjid. Like, I got them specifically for this, and no one uses them, man. It's like I got to force people, like, wait, sit on this. Okay, tamam. كم من ليال أحييتها. Now he's saying to his student. Now obviously his student is on a different level. He's not like us. We're like on a much lower level. And myself foremost before any of you guys. He goes, how many nights have you brought to life by studying and learning knowledge and reading books and memorizing hadith, and you have made sleep prohibited for yourself, and you've stayed away from sleep. تتجافى جنوبهم عن المضاجع يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا خوفا وطمعا, that they've left off sleep, right? You've left off sleep and you haven't laid down. Then he says, لا أعلم ما كان الباعث فيه, and I have no idea what was the purpose of that in the first place. Why did you spend all those nights not going to sleep and working so hard? What were you trying to gain from that? You've broken it already, Doctor, subhanallah. You know what that means, huh? There's some dietary requirements need to change. Okay. إن كان نيتك نيل عرض الدنيا, if your intention was to acquire something of the dunya, وجذب حطامها, and to try and acquire its like material things, وتحصيل مناصبها, and try to gain some sort of status as a result of working hard. Now he's talking about the deen here, right? Because back in the day, if you had some semblance of deen and some knowledge in the deen, you would easily become a lawyer, you would become some sort of like some sort of clerk in some sort of governmental position, and based on your proficiency and your ability, that's how you'd climb up in the world, right? But obviously today, the glass ceiling that you reach when you study deen is probably the imam, right? Or a financial advisor for a bank, Islamic bank, right? Stuff allowed to really, right? But let's put it in our worldly context, right? So let's say a doctor, mashallah, right? You guys are in the medical profession. In order to continue to sort of progress in the medical field, you'll have to learn different things, and you have to continue to educate yourselves and so on and so forth as you rise up. Similarly, in the tech industry, right? You have to keep up to date with what's going on, and there has to be like trainings and stuff like that you do, and blah 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 blah. You're ongoing. Accountants, dude, man, you guys got it tough, right? There's like 13 exams you got to do, whatever, to get your qualification. So all this stuff has to, now you spend nights, you spend hours and hours and hours revising, studying, memorizing, taking notes and doing mock exams and going through those exams and being successful in those exams and going to the next one, sometimes failing those exams and going through them again and again, right? All of these things, what are you doing all of this for, right? And so he's listing out all of these different things that you do this for, right? So it might be to get some sort of status, you want to get some sort of position in the dunya. وَالْمُبَاهَاةَ عَلَى الْأَقْرَانِ وَالْأَمْثَالِ, and if it's not any of that, you just want to outdo your peers, those people who are competing with you. Another cabbie has done like loads of fairs. So the man's like, yeah, you can't beat me. I'm gonna go Heathrow and back tonight. فَوَيْلٌ لَكَ, Allah, astaghfirullah. Speeding. He obeys the law, man. He's good. So he says after all of this, فَوَيْلٌ لَكَ ثُمَّ وَيْلٌ لَكَ, woe to you, woe to you. And they say wail is actually a valley in Jahannam, right? وَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, or وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Wail is for all of these people who they forget to pray, or they make fun of people, and they revile others and look down on them, right? Wail is for these people, meaning a valley in Jahannam is waiting for them. Or wail could just be something that is used by the Arabs to be like, yo, you're on a terrible path, you're on a bad path, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Tamam? So he's saying wailun lak, if that was the only reason for doing all of this stuff. وَإِن كَانَ قَصْدُكَ فِيهِ إِحْيَاءَ شَرِيعَةِ النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. But if your intention was that you wanted to revive the sharia of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَتَهْذِيبَ أَخْلَاقِكَ, and to better yourself and to hone your skills and your personality, وَكَسْرَ النَّفْسِ الْأَمَّارَةِ بِالسُّوءِ, and to break your nafs so that it no longer commands you with evil and it commands you with good. فَطُوبَى لَكَ ثُمَّ طُوبَى لَكَ, and Tuba is also a valley in Jannah. So Tuba is for you. You have the valley in Jannah, you have that great reward in Jannah waiting for you. Or Tuba just means something that's really, really good. فَطُوبَى لِلْغُرَبَاءِ, right, as is commonly said. وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَ مَنْ قَالَ, then he brings a line of poetry, and bringing lines of poetry in books is like a popular thing, you got to do that. سَهْرُ الْعُيُونِ لِغَيْرِ وَجْهِكَ ضَائِعٌ وَبُكَاؤُهُنَّ لِغَيْرِ فَقْدِكَ بَاطِلُ, which basically means that your eyes, like staying awake at night for long periods of time, without, not for the sake, not for your sake, Ya Allah, is an absolute waste of time. And their crying without losing you is absolute folly, right? It's misguidance. Tamam? So if you cry for anything, you cry because you've lost your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what is worthy of crying over. Anything else that you lose, right? You lose your car keys. Not that anybody cries about that. All right, but you lose something of material possession, adiyam yu'awwad. It's always going to be replaced. But your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot ever be replaced. Then he goes on to say, oh, no. Then we go on to a new one. Ayyuhal Walad. Right? Now we go into a new council, which is the 7th council, which is the council of death. Now, subhanAllah, this council, he's mentioned it in 2 lines only, because death is enough of an admonition, right? Is enough of an admonition. Ayyuhal Walad, O my beloved son, ish ma shit, live as long as you want. فَإِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ, for verily you're going to die. وَأَحْبِبْ مَنْ شِئْتَ, and love whoever you wish to love. فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقُهُ, because you are going to leave them one day. وَأَعْمَلْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مَجْزِيٌّ بِهِ, and do whatever it is that you want, because you are going to be recompensed based on what you do. Ayyuhal Walad, O my beloved son. أي شيء حاصلك من تحصيل علم الكلام والخلاف. This council is all about the council of hypocrisy. Don't be a hypocrite. He says, what are you going to gain from learning all about kalam? Alright, so kalam, for anybody that doesn't know, is like akin to like philosophy and or theology. It's a famous thing, and it's studied throughout our history. When it was first introduced and first like sort of like debated about, it was mixed with like Greek philosophy and Indian philosophy and a bunch of other things, right? And so the ulama didn't really like people studying that. So there was a lot of like negative connotations about studying this thing called al-kalam back in the day. Imam Al-Shafi'i, he's got like some statements that are like really like reviling this thing called al-kalam. But essentially what happened was, throughout the ages, within like 100 odd years, that concept of kalam was then sifted through, and you had what was the kalam of the Muslims, which was essentially the theology of the Muslims, which pushed back and defended the deen of Islam, but on a theological level, yeah, using logical reasoning, using proofs that are outside of the Quran and the Sunnah, but defend the Quran and the Sunnah through them. And all of those argumentations are all in line with the Quran and Sunnah anyway, right? So that's what kalam ended up becoming. And so if you fast forward to Imam Al-Ghazali's time, which is the 5th century, like kalam was like something that was widespread and studied like everywhere. There wasn't a person that didn't study kalam during his time. So he says, what are you going to gain from acquiring all of this knowledge in kalam, in theology, in this like sort of logical reasoning and this argumentation, and learning about the khilafat, right? So there's ikhtilaf, there's an ayah that says this, and it can mean a bunch of different things. This group says this, that group says that. Learning all about these khilafat, like we see in like Speaker's Corner, right? They're having all these debates amongst themselves. Muslims, mashallah, are very popular. Like if you want to become a popular speaker now, all you have to do is just refute like certain ulama, or refute like certain like students of knowledge, or certain du'at. In the UK, you just put a video out about Yasir Qadi, and then suddenly like you get a couple of thousand views, right? So that sort of thing. That's the kind of like the same kind of atmosphere, the same kind of like style that's going on now. That was around back then, but I'm sure it was like a little more classy, right, than it is now. Anyway, khalas. So what is the point of gaining all of this knowledge? In theology, and in like the khilafat of the ulama, in tib, in medicine also, والدواوين والأشعار, and learning literature and learning poetry, right? والنجوم والعروض, and learning about like celestial like constellations, and learning about the stars, and learning about the geography, and learning about نحو and sarf. What is the point of doing all this? غير تضييع العمر, except that you are wasting your entire life. Allah, Dude, I studied all of this stuff. Did I waste my life? People study other than this. And they look at people who did study these things, they're like, yo, you did it. I wasted my life, man. I just learned about like coding and other things, man. This, what's it called? Python. Is it Python? Yeah, that's the new one now, right? Yeah, damn it, I wasted all my time with this. إني رأيت في إنجيل عيسى عليه السلام قال, I saw in the Injil of Isa عليه السلام what he said. And he said, من ساعة أن يوضع الميت على الجنازة إلى أن يوضع على شفير القبر يسأل الله تعالى بعظمته منه 40 سؤالا. That from the moment a person dies and is placed on his janazah, the janazah is the thing that you carry the deceased with until their grave. Until the moment that they're put inside the grave, apparently during that time there are 40 questions that the deceased is asked. The first one is يقول الله تعالى, Allah asks him, عبدي طهرت منظر الخلق سنين وما طهرت منظري ساعة. It said to him that, O my servant, you have rectified your appearance for the creation for many, many years, but you have never corrected your appearance for me once. وكل يوم ننظر في قلبك. But every single day we look upon your heart. Astaghfirullah tu'ubu ilayh. يقول الله تعالى ما تصنع بغيري وأنت محفوف بخيري أما أنت أصم لا تسمع. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to him, what do you do with other than me whilst you are surrounded by all of the good that I have given you? Are you blind, deaf and dumb? Ayyuhal Walad. O my beloved son, Al-ilmu bila amalin junoon. We'll finish with this. How many have we done so far? This is the 7th one, yeah? This is the 9th one. 9th one. Should we do one more? Let's do 2 more. Let's finish on 10. Yeah? Al-ilmu bila amalin junoon wal-amalu bila ilmin la yakun. Allah. Knowledge without action is madness. And action without knowledge cannot be. Right? It's impossible. Impossible. Right? Acting without knowledge. Because how does that even work? How can you know to act? How can you know to pray 5 times a day if you don't know that praying 5 times a day is obligatory? How can you know to make adhkar in the morning and the evening if you don't know that you're supposed to make adhkar in the morning and the evening? How do you know that reciting Surah Ikhlas 3 times is the equivalent of the Quran if you don't know that reciting Surah Ikhlas 3 times is the equivalent of the Quran? Knowledge without action, or action without knowledge, is impossible. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ عِلْمًا, meaning that the two work hand in hand. If you have action without knowledge, like, what are you doing? Innovator. Mubtadi'. Oh, Abdurrahim walks in at the perfect time. And then but if you have knowledge, and you don't act, that is madness. What on earth are you gaining this knowledge for? What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? Do you know what I mean? Imagine like we sat here and we learnt like all these ahadith and all these things, and then we walk out of here and we do absolutely nothing. What do we do? What do we do just now? We just sit like, was it like an entertainment factor thing? We just wanted to be entertained for a little bit. Dude, my joke's on point though, man. Alright, that was a joke. وَاعْلَمْ, know أن علما لا يبعدك يوما عن المعاصي ولا يحملك على الطاعة. Know that you learning knowledge, you understanding something, you knowing about something, it doesn't take you away from sinning one bit. Nor does it get you any closer to being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one bit. Right? You're neither closer nor are you further away just by you knowing. لن يبعدك غدا عن نار جهنم. It's not going to take you away from the fire of Jahannam just knowing that it's there. وإذا لم تعمل اليوم, and if you don't act today, ولم تدارك الأيام الماضية, sorry, and you don't make up for the days that you didn't act in your past. تقول غدا يوم القيامة, you will say tomorrow on the day of judgment, فارجعنا نعمل صالحا. You will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O Allah, return us to the dunya so that we may do some righteous action. فيقال يا أحمق أنت من هناك جئت. So he said, Oh ignoramus, you fool, you've just come from there. If you were there already, why didn't you do anything? Right? And there are many, many ahadith that are like akin to this as well, right? And many, many ayat as well, right? That are akin to this. That, a person's going to pass away and they're going to wish that they can just have one day of Ramadan, that they can come back and fast in and die, right? There's many, many like of the salihun that have passed away and they're seen in dreams and they're like, okay, what do you wish for? We just wish that we can come back one more day and just pray 2 raka'ah and that's it. One of them is tasbihah. We just want to come back and do tasbih and then die. Right? Sadaqah as well. There's so many instances about this hope that they will come back to this world. So it's not just exclusive to the kafir, the non-Muslim, who's done nothing in this world, right? And they reach Yawm al-Qiyamah and they're like, let us go back, and so that we can believe in the messenger that was sent, right? They also say that in the Quran as well, that the messenger was sent amongst you. Yes, it was. Let us go back, just for 1 second. We will believe and then we'll die again, right? It's not reserved for the kuffar only. The Muslims would also do that. They have the same feeling as well. They will say to Allah, Ya Allah, allow us to return so that we can do something that we can raise in our ranks, so we can get rid of this impending Jahannam that we can see in front of us. Right? Even the Muslims are going to be in that state. Ayyuhal Walad. O my beloved son. This counsel is the 10th one, and it's all about the grave. Ij'al al-himmata fi ar-ruh. Make sure that you focus your efforts on your spirit, right? Look after your body, of course, right? وَلَا تَنْسَى نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيا. But make sure that your efforts are given to your ruh. وَالْهَزِيمَةَ فِي النَّفْسِ. And make sure that your loss is given to your nafs. Allah. What's the difference between the ruh and the nafs? Yeah, okay, good. And the nafs is? Not min amri rabbi? Allah. So that you have the upper self and the lower self, right? Was that what you meant by that and that? We'll say it then, innit? Nigerian, man, this is isharat, innit? So the upper self and the lower self. The upper self is the upper self that is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your higher sense of self. That is the one that is optimistic. That is the one that is hopeful. That is the one that is instilling hope in others and positivity in other people's lives, right? The lower self is the one that is just given to base desires, just wants to fulfill your own needs, the selfish element of yourself, and also spreads negativity in themselves and in others as well. You know that side of you that's always like self-critiquing. You're a loser, you're an idiot, you don't deserve, what have you done, astaghfirullah. that side of yourself, that tells you all of those bad things, that is the lower side of yourself, right? But the angelic, and that side of yourself is connected to the lammatun min ash-shaytan. Because the Prophet said, Al-mu'minu bayna lammati al-malak wa lammati al-shaytan. That the believer is between inspiration from an angel and inspiration from shaitan. The side of your ruh, or the side of yourself that is connected to the shaitan, is your nafs, right? Inna nafsa la'ammaratun bisu. The side of you that is connected or that is inspired by the angel is your higher sense of self. Now, obviously, anything that is higher is slightly difficult to get to and slightly difficult to acquire and to have mastery over. So you have to work in order to make sure that that part of yourself is the dominant part of yourself. And that comes through self-reflection, that comes through dhikr, that comes through recitation of Quran, that comes through doing acts of worship. That's also done through abstaining from those things that are haram. Because in our lives, no matter where we go, we are presented with opportunities to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. Sometimes, astaghfirullah, we fall into those. Sometimes we consciously make those decisions, right? We convince ourselves that we have to. No, if I don't do this, then it's going to look bad on my CV, right? Or like, my employer might not like me, or something like that, right? Luckily, I work in a masjid, so it's all good, right? But we have these thoughts, right? That okay, I'm gonna do this, and astaghfirullah, I know it's wrong, astaghfirullah, right? So we're brought those opportunities, but sometimes we have this azima in ourselves. We're like, la, I'm not going to do it. In spite, I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what the critique that I'm going to get. I just care about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks of me, and therefore I'm going to push back on that haram, right? So sometimes it's like that as well. So in order to connect to that higher self, that is the ruh element, right? So you make success for your ruh. You focus on that side of things. You focus on the higher element of yourself and trying to attain it and try to acquire it and try to acquire mastery over it. And you allow all of the losses to happen to your sense of lower self, right? So what? You don't get to like eat sweets when you want to eat sweets. So what? You don't want to you want to watch that film or you want to watch that episode of like Rings of Power even though it sucks, right? So what? You want to whatever it is that you want to do. You wanted to get that car or whatever, or something else happened in your life that you didn't want to happen. So what? Let that be yourself, like that is taking that loss, right? That ego side of yourself. Let it be your ego that's taking that loss. No problem. وَالْمَوْتَ فِي الْبَدَنِ, and let death be in your body as opposed to what? As opposed to your heart. Yeah? Don't let your heart die. And how does your heart die? With a disconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you don't have that sustenance, you don't have that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your heart dies. And how does your heart die? It's not like it stops beating. You're no longer perceptive to the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayat can be recited and it's just whoosh, in one ear, out the other. You hear many ahadith, you're not moved by it. You see what's happening in Gaza and you're just like, it's happening over there, isn't it? Like no, nothing moves. Nothing moves you. Yeah, you see oppression happening before your eyes. As long as it's not happening to you, khalas. I might say something about it when everyone else is talking about it. But otherwise, like, who are you and who am I? Tamam? That's a dead heart. لأن منزلك القبر. Right? So make sure that your death is in your body because your true home is your grave. وأهل المقابر ينتظرونك في كل لحظة متى تصل إليهم. And your family, aka those people who have already died, they're waiting for you. When are you going to join them in the grave? When are you going to join them in the grave? SubhanAllah. That's why we say, like, when we go to the grave and we say, Assalamu alaikum. يا أهل ديار قوم مؤمنين وإنا بكم للاحقون. We are going to join you soon. So we're telling them. This is dua of the Prophet ﷺ as well. Like he'd go to the Baqi' and stuff and he'd go say this to those who have passed away, right? Which means that death is not the end. Death is like, it's not like you no longer exist when you die. You still exist. You're still there. They can still hear the Prophet ﷺ when he's talking to them. When we go to the graves, they can still hear us when we talk to them. And they're calling back at us, although we can't hear them. Right? So make sure that death is in your body only and not in your heart, because your family is waiting for you. إياك نعبد إياك ثم إياك أن تصل إليهم بلا زاد. So be careful that you arrive to your family, you reach your family and your destination, and you have no provisions to take you there. When you arrive there, you have no provisions. They have their provisions. They did whatever they did in their lives, and they're ready for the journey of the akhirah. You arrive where they are. Ahlan wa sahlan, it's been so long, alhamdulillah, you finally arrived, and you've got nothing. You're like, yo, can I join you on this journey of the akhirah? But on that day, so everyone's going to say what? Nafsi, nafsi. It's all about me, man. Right? I don't have a brother. I don't have a mother. I don't have a son. It's just me, man. It's just me that I've got to look after. Astaghfirullah already. قال أبو بكر الصديق رضي الله تعالى عنه هذه الأجساد إما قفص الطيور أو إسطبل الدواب. These bodies are either cages of birds, or they are stables of donkeys. Right? What that basically means is, right, that you're either trapped in this body, and as soon as you die, you're flying out and you're going to explore the entire world, or you're in your stable, and then when you die, your body, yani, when you die, you're then released and things are put on top of you and you're used as, like, you know, ay kalam, man. Astaghfirullah to body. That's quite the metaphor, right? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ank. Okay. فَتَفَكَّرْ فِي نَفْسِكَ مِنْ أَيِّهِمَا أَنْتَ. So think about, Ghazali says after this, think about which one of those are you going to be. إن كنت من الطيور العلوية فحين تسمع طنين طبل ارجعي إلى ربك تطير صاعدا إلى أن تقعد في أعالي بروج الجنان. If you are from the birds that are stuck in their cages, when you die, you will hear the voice calling, the call made, ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. Return back to your Lord, and so you will fly towards the highest heavens. كما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اهتز عرش الرحمن لموت سعد بن معاذ. That the throne of the most merciful shook at the death of Sa'd bin Mu'adh. Right? A lot of people understand that hadith as like it was a major event. It was like a thing that shook even the heavens, that he died. Other people understand it is, or the way Ghazali is trying to tell us that it's understood as, is that Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, when he passed away and he returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he went straight to the top. And his arrival was like such a massive event that everything shook as a result of him coming. It didn't shake out of fear, but it shook out of pure joy and exactly, yeah, alhamdulillah. Welcome to your home. وَالْإِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الدَّوَابِ. Right? And we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from becoming donkeys. كما قال الله تعالى, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. Those are like livestock, rather they are more severe in transgression. Or like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, where He's describing Bani Israel, and they have studied the Torah and they studied the Injil, but they don't act according to it, right? كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. They are like the donkey that is carrying a bunch of books on its back. No benefit from it whatsoever, and if you ask the donkey for a fatwa, all it does is just scream at your face. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. فَلَا تَأْمَنْ انتقالك من زاوية الدار إلى هاوية النار. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. So don't be so sure that you're not going to go from your home in this dunya to the hellfire in the akhirah. وروي أن الحسن البصري رحمه الله تعالى أعطي شربة من ماء بارد فلما أخذ القدح غشي عليه وسقط من يده. So Hassan al-Basri, once he took a cup of cold water and he drank it, and when he drank it, he almost fainted, right? And the cup fell from his hand. So when he came to, فلما أفاق قيل له ما لك يا أبا سعيد. When he came to, he was asked, what on earth is wrong with you, man? It's just a cup of water. قال ذكرت أمنية أهل النار حين يقولون لأهل الجنة أن أفيضوا علينا من الماء أو مما رزقكم الله. He said, I remembered the hope and the call of the people of Jahannam. They said to the people of Jannah, أن أفيضوا علينا من الماء, send down some of your water, أو مما رزقكم الله, or anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Anything just to relieve us for one moment. And he fainted as a result of that. Different level. Dude, I drink. I don't remember nothing. I'm just drinking out here. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. So Hassan al-Basri there is on another level there. But that is the admonition of the grave, and by extension the akhirah as well. Let's نكتفي بهذا القدر. Let's leave it at this, inshallah ta'ala. I think that was enough as a counsel, right? And as an admonition. Tamam? I'm ready tonight, inshallah. I'm ready. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit. Oh, what are you saying?
You know the 40 questions that you mentioned? I don't want to hold people, but is there any other ones that you think are worth mentioning?
What questions?
The 40 questions that you mentioned when you're getting taken to
I don't know the 40 questions, unfortunately. I don't know what the 40 questions are. But I know there are many questions that you're going to be asked. I would say the three most popular questions are Munkar and Nakir, the questions of Munkar and Nakir in your grave, right? But when you die, it's not just like nothing happens. The only things that happen is the angel comes, take your souls out. They don't say anything to you, no words are said, right? Nothing happens. Or if you're a wretched soul, they take your soul out, but they don't say anything to you. It's all quiet, right? Like awkward. Hello. Okay, I'll just come back. It's not like that, right? They are, when the angels come and you're a good soul, they are taking you out of your body and they are praising you and lauding you and they are like bigging you up. They're like, we've waited ages to come and meet you, and now you finally meet us, and it's such a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And you're just like, oh, alhamdulillah, lovely to meet you guys too. Where are we going? We're going to the Samawat. Let's go, bismillah. And you're climbing up and you're meeting all these people as well. You're meeting like family members who have passed away. You're meeting Anbiya. You're meeting Salihun. You're meeting all these other angels as well. And they're all praising you as well as you're going up. And they're like, oh, this is Fulan and Fulan, Ahlan wa Sahlan. They knock on the gates of the Samawat, right? The different dimensions of the Samawat. And at every dimension, you knock on that gate and someone asks, who is it? And your name is called. They're like, oh, Ahlan, we've been waiting for this guy. And you come and everybody knows who you are. And you don't know who anybody else is. Like, amazing, right? Similarly, the person who is wretched, like the opposite happens to him. He comes out, everyone's cussing him, everyone's like denigrating him. How could you do this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How could you do this to the Messenger? The Messenger, you are part of the best nations. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent amongst you. His Quran was amongst you. His people were amongst you, and you turned away from it. What the hell's wrong with you? Okay, fine, you might have lived in a time where there was no messenger sent. Okay, I'll give you an excuse. But dude, what are you doing? How dare smacking him up, taking him up to the heavens. They don't even get to the first heavens, and they're being told to send this guy back. His smell is offending us. Ajib, man. Ajib. If anybody tells you that your breath stinks in this world, man, the humiliation, bro. The humiliation. Imagine that in the akhirah, when there's nothing you can do about it. At least you go home quickly, just brush your teeth, right? When you're here. But in the akhirah, what are you going to do? Nothing, man. So lots of things happen, Abdul right? Lots of things happen when you pass away. We might not know like the details of every single thing that happens. We've got a good picture that those things happen. So it's not impossible that there could be many, many questions that you're asked as you're going along before you get into your grave. And even after you got into your grave. And even as you go, your companion that comes in the form of your deeds, or your deeds that come in the form of a companion that stay with you until Yawm al-Qiyamah. What conversations are going to take place for the wretched soul? And what conversations are going to take place for the good soul? Do you know what I mean? All these things to think about, man. So be the case. Be the smart one, right? Man dana nafsahu wa amila lima ba'd al-maut. Tamam? Any more questions? وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. اللهم وفقنا لكل عمل تحب وترضاه يا رب العالمين واجعلنا من الصالحين. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم اجعلنا من الصالحين يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعلنا من الأقوياء في الإيمان يا أرحم الراحمين. وانصر إخواننا المستضعفين في فلسطين وفي لبنان وفي السودان وفي كل مكان يا رب العالمين. وجعلنا من الشجعان والناصرين لهم وهم منتصرون يا رب العالمين. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.